Today, folks, we've got a front row seat to the insanity, starring Democrat Representative Jasmine Crockett, who, let's be real, is the political equivalent of a malfunctioning Roomba, making noises, just spinning in circles, and slamming into reality. She doesn't know what an extra $5,000 would do for you, but she's pretty sure taxpayer money should keep flowing to bloated federal agencies. And in a not-so-shocking turn of events, The View fawns over this brain-dead Democrat who says absolutely nothing of substance, but gets a standing ovation anyway. Let's get right to it.
Giving them hell.
I don't know about that. They giving me hell, honey.
Yeah, but you give it right back to them. A lot of them don't do that.
Absolutely. It's a must in this environment,
That's
though,
right.
Because they will steamroll right over you. And unfortunately, we see that ever since day one, baby, that pen been going and it ain't stopped. And it's steamrolling over all of our rights and our liberties and our freedoms and everything that we thought was the foundation of this country, our Constitution.
Yes.
Seems like we're saying, well, nope, with a pen, get rid of the Constitution. With a pen, get rid of impoundment and other laws that exist.
Well, that's a flaming pile of nonsense. Jasmine Crockett is actually out here claiming that Republicans are steamrolling over rights, liberties, and freedoms with nothing but a pen. Oh, the horror! The founding fathers must be rolling in their graves, probably to get away from this stupidity. Now, I love a good dystopian thriller, but this is just lazy writing. They're getting rid of the Constitution with a pen, she wails, as if Biden didn't try to cancel $500 billion in student debt with a Sharpie. Executive overreach is only bad when it's not coming from her side, apparently. And let's be real. If anyone's been lighting the Constitution on fire, it's the Democrats, and they've been using Fauci's face mask as kindling. These are the same people who pushed unconstitutional vaccine mandates, silenced dissenting opinions by colluding with big tech, and treated parental rights like a terrorist threat. But yeah, sure, Republicans are the ones erasing freedoms. Next, she'll tell us January 6th was worse than 9/11 and Pearl Harbor combined. Oh, wait. They already did that. Then there's her whining about getting rid of empowerment. Ah, yes, that must be Democrat code for stopping government handouts, race-based hiring, and the endless cycle of victimhood politics. The left's version of empowerment is like giving someone a crutch and then breaking their legs so they'll always need it. Sorry, Jasmine, but actual empowerment isn't forcing companies to hire people based on skin color. It's letting people compete on equal footing. But I get it. The DNC's voter base shrinks dramatically if people start succeeding without needing the government to hold their hands. And let's talk about the real steamroller here, the Democrat Party's death march on reality itself. These are the same people who tell us that men can get pregnant, crime isn't rising, and the economy is fine while you're debating whether to buy eggs or pay rent. They'd rather criminalize misgendering someone than actually prosecuting, actual criminals. But sure, let's pretend Republicans wielding executive orders are the greatest threat to democracy, while Democrats are out here treating the Bill of Rights like a scratch-off lottery ticket. The real punchline here is that Crockett isn't actually mad about power being abused. She's mad that she and her party aren't the ones abusing it right now. If you need any more proof, just look at how silent she is on actual constitutional violations, the FBI targeting conservative parents, the DOJ being weaponized to go after political opponents. And let's not forget the government telling Twitter who to censor like some dystopian digital book burning. But no, please, tell me more about how a Republican signing an executive order is getting rid of the Constitution. If cognitive dissonance was a sport, Crockett would have a gold medal and a Wheaties box deal. All in all, this is just another installment of Democrats scream about fascism while actively trying to implement it. So forgive me if I don't take her little pearl-clutching meltdown seriously, but hey, at least it was entertaining, like watching a toddler throw a tantrum over dropping their ice cream cone.
I remember there was actually a hearing that we had in oversight, and it was right after he said, oh, I know nothing about that Project 2025.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we had a witness, and I mentioned that his name was mentioned 312 times.
Yes.
In Project 2025.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is interesting that he don't know nothing about it, but he's all through it.
And if it's his name, he's riveted to it.
No. And he's relying on the people that absolutely pulled it together.
Like J.D. Vance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. I mean, I think that there are those that just said, I want to do something different. Yeah. And so we know that typically when people are feeling it, especially in the economy, they tend to just go the other way.
Why?
The problem is that this wasn't the guy to fix anything. This is the guy that is the king of breaking things, as we can see.
Oh, this is just rich. Jasmine Crockett, fresh off her Nationwide, I have no idea what I'm talking about tour, is actually having a full-scale meltdown over Project 2025, a policy paper that Trump has about as much to do with as Joe Biden has with coherent sentences. But don't let that stop her. She's locked, loaded, and ready to spew nonsense with the confidence of a drunk guy explaining Bitcoin at a bar. First, we get Joy Behar lobbing the softball. You think Americans just didn't believe that he would go with Project 2025? And Crockett, never one to let reality interfere with a good panic attack, screeches, "Oh, I remember, honey, yeah. We had a hearing, and I mentioned that his name was mentioned 312 times. Oh, no. 312 times? By that logic, if I say The View is a dumpster fire 312 times, does that make it the official tagline? Newsflash, Project 2025 is not Trump's plan. It's a policy wish list from a conservative think tank, and Trump hasn't even endorsed it. But hey, white left facts get in the way when fear-mongering pays the bills. Then Crockett shifts into economic illiteracy mode, saying when people are feeling it, especially in the economy, they tend to just go the other way. Translation, people don't like starving and being homeless, so they vote Republican. Wow, what a mystery. Imagine being so out of touch that you think people switching sides because they can't afford groceries under Biden is some kind of irrational fluke. No, Jasmine, it's called self-preservation. People don't want to do something different. They just want to pay their rent without selling an organ on the black market. And then the grand finale. This wasn't the guy to fix anything. This is the guy that is the king of breaking things. Yes, let's talk about things Trump broke. He broke record low black and Hispanic unemployment. He broke the back of ISIS. He broke the Democrat spirit by getting more minority votes than they were comfortable with. Meanwhile, Biden broke the economy, the border, and his own ability to finish sentences. But sure, tell me more about how Trump is a real problem while we're dodging shoplifters like it's the Hunger Games, CVS edition. Now, it's evident that Crockett's whole shtick here is fear, projection, and just screaming buzzwords until Whoopi Goldberg magically appears and claps like a seal. But when you've got The View spoon-feeding you delusions, I guess facts are just an optional side dish.
You know what? I think that just like the rest of the world, we've got a bit of whiplash. Because for some people, even those that voted for him, they said, well, we've been here before. And we didn't fall apart the last time he was here, so we won't fall apart this time. And so I think that while we had the playbook right there for us, Project 2025, I still think that even some Democrats were like, oh, well, he's just going to do what he did last time. And he's not. World leaders are recognizing that he's not the same. I mean, he's 10 times worse. And imagine that. This is the guy that oversaw how many deaths during COVID, right? And now we had Ebola breakout. Now we've got measles breakout. Like this is bird flu because they were some of the other people that got fired.
The USDA firings.
And he's like, oh, well, wait a minute. Like this is just literally not even partisanship, in my opinion, at this point. This is incompetence. And I think that, no, seriously, it's incompetence. And I know earlier y'all were talking about bring back the Bushes. I'm with you, honey. Like, listen, I mean, you know,
that was some sense of normalcy, democratic norms.
Oh, this is gold. Jasmine Crockett, ladies and gentlemen, the human embodiment of a buffering wheel, struggling to load a coherent thought. Watching her speak is like watching a toddler try to explain quantum physics. Lots of words, zero meaning, and somehow everyone involved is dumber for listening. First, she kicks things off with whiplash. Now, to be fair, Democrats should have whiplash at this point, considering they've spent the last 4 years flipping their narratives faster than Biden forgets what state he's in. Trump was a Russian asset until that collapsed. He was a fascist dictator until Biden started arresting his political opponents. And now, after literally calling him a senile, washed-up old man for years, they've suddenly decided he's an all-powerful Machiavellian mastermind who's going to burn down democracy with Project 2025, a policy paper he didn't even write. Yeah, I'd have whiplash too if I were spinning that fast. Then she hits us with this gem. Even people who voted for him said, we've been here before, and we didn't fall apart last time. Now pay close attention to the subtext here. She's mad that America didn't collapse under Trump. Democrats spent 4 years screeching that he was literally Hitler 2.0, and now Crockett is forced to admit that the country shockingly survived. The horror. No mass genocide, no dictatorship, no doomsday scenario, just lower gas prices, fewer wars, and a border that actually functioned. But sure, Jasmine, tell us again, how this is the real crisis. And then we get the fear-mongering crescendo. He's 10 times worse now. Right. So let me get this straight. Trump, who has been in office for just about a month, is somehow already responsible for Ebola, measles, and bird flu. What's next? Is he also behind climate change? Did he personally cause inflation by traveling back in time and signing Biden's trillion-dollar spending bills? This is peak Democrat logic. Blame Trump for things that have nothing to do with him while ignoring the party that actually did all those things. Hint, hint. The Democrats. Oh, and let's talk about this incompetence accusation, because that's rich coming from a party that covered for a guy who needs step-by-step instructions on how to walk off a stage. Trump's version of incompetence, record low unemployment, peace deals in the Middle East, and an economy where people could afford eggs without selling a kidney. Biden's version, inflation, open borders, and foreign policy disasters that make the Bay of Pigs look well planned. But yeah, let's all pretend Trump is a problem while Biden's handlers are still trying to figure out which way to point him. But the cherry on top, bring back the Bushes. That was normalcy, they say. Oh, now they miss George W., the same guy they spent years calling a war criminal and a Nazi. Classic Democrat strategy. Every Republican who isn't currently in office was actually fine. It's just this one who's the real threat. Just give it a few years, and they'll be pretending Trump was an old-school moderate compared to whoever they're fear-mongering about next. Anyway, this wasn't Jasmine Crockett's most embarrassing moment on TV this week, because she also said this very revealing statement on ABC just a couple days later.
President Trump says he likes the idea of giving some of the savings from DOGE back to Americans as kind of a dividend. Would you support that?
Listen, he's just telling a lie. He's not the one that had anything to do with the $1,200 refunds that people had during the midst of COVID. That was done by a Democratic House and Democratic Senate. Right now, what they're going to do is say, hey, we want to give you a refund, but Congress won't let us, because they already know that there's just no money for that. The only reason that those refunds came before was because we were living in different times. This was a time in which hopefully we won't ever go through again. We had a once in a lifetime pandemic. The bad part is that I don't know if it's once in a lifetime, because we know that Ebola, unfortunately, was detected right here in New York here recently. And if we continue down this road of getting rid of scientists or deciding that we don't want to rely on experts as it relates to what they're telling us to do, or we don't want to deal with vaccines and medicine in this country, then we may be facing not only our next pandemic, but our next 2, 3, or 4 pandemics because of their incompetence. So no, we are not in the business of giving out money. And honestly, I don't know what $5,000 will do for you.
Oh, this is beyond spectacular. Jasmine Crockett, the human equivalent of a corrupt file that just won't open, sat on ABC and confidently declared, brace yourselves, that giving Americans their own money back is pointless. And why? Well, because according to her infinite government-approved wisdom, $5,000 just isn't enough to make a difference. Incredible. This is just like a millionaire laughing at a homeless man and saying, I don't know what a sandwich would actually do for you. Now, first we get the classic Democrat auto response. Trump is lying. And no evidence, no argument, just a knee-jerk reaction of someone who hears his name and short circuits like an overheating Roomba. Then she immediately follows that up with a history rewrite special. He's not the one that had anything to do with the $1,200 checks. That was a Democrat House and Senate. Oh, bless her heart. The first round of stimulus checks, yes, Trump signed those into law. Without him, those payments wouldn't have even existed. But sure, let's pretend Nancy Pelosi personally Venmo'd America out of the pandemic. Then we get my personal favorite. There's just no money for that, really? There's no money to return a fraction of what Americans already paid in taxes? That's funny, because there was clearly a lot of money when Biden was sending check after check after check, over $170 billion to Ukraine, and the government was still shoveling cash into every woke black hole it could find. Gender studies in Pakistan? Plenty of funny for that. Drag queen story hours for the military? Bankrolled. Billions for illegal immigrants? Absolutely. But returning money to actual American taxpayers? Oops, sorry, the Treasury is closed for renovations. And then, just when you think the delusion has peaked, she shifts into full-blown apocalypse mode. She says, we had a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. Oh, wait, actually, maybe not once in a lifetime, because now we have Ebola and measles and bird flu. At this point, she's just spinning a pandemic bingo wheel and hoping something sticks. This is what Democrats do when they're losing an argument. They scream, everyone is going to die, and hope you're too panicked to notice that their actual policies are garbage. If Ebola suddenly breaks out in New York, it's not because Trump wants you to have a tax refund. It's probably because the Biden administration left the border wide open like a 24-hour Waffle House for 4 years. But here comes the absolute chef's kiss of this elitist nonsense. She says, honestly, I don't know what $5,000 would do for you. Well, Jasmine, maybe you don't. But Americans living paycheck to paycheck sure as hell do. That's rent. That's food. That's gas money, so people don't have to sell plasma just to fill up their tank. But I get it. When your party's entire strategy is keeping people dependent on the government, the idea of Americans actually having their own money must be terrifying. Now, the greatest irony about Jasmine Crockett laughing off $5,000 like it's gas station pocket change is that she's conveniently sitting on nearly $9 million herself. Colin Rugg shared a screenshot of her alleged net worth on X, exposing just how rich and out of touch she really is. Imagine a multi-millionaire politician telling struggling Americans, hey, what would $5,000 even do for you, honey? I don't know, Jasmine. Maybe pay rent, buy food, or keep the lights on for people who don't get congressional perks and a fat salary for running their mouth on TV. But when your biggest expense is pretending to care about the poor, I guess real world numbers stop making sense. Funny how there's never enough money to give back to taxpayers, but there's always enough to make sure people like Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett get richer. Look, at the end of the day, this isn't just about Jasmine Crockett's arrogance or her clueless dismissal of what $5,000 means to struggling Americans. It's about the wider con that career politicians run on the people they claim to represent. They preach empathy while hoarding millions, demand sacrifices while never making any themselves, and pretend to be champions of the working class while ensuring they never have to live like one. So ask yourself, who really benefits from this game? Why is it that the same people who say there's no money to give back to taxpayers never seem to run out of cash for foreign wars, government waste, and their own bottom line? And most importantly, how much longer are people willing to buy into this charade? Because if the last few years have proven anything, it's that the people in power aren't struggling. They just need you to be. Anyway, folks, you tell me what you think in the comments down below. Hope you have a terrific day. Peace.